Most people think body fat is something you can pinch, measure, and see in the mirror. But the fat that worries me the most is the fat you can't see at all. It's visceral fat. The dense, hidden fat that packs itself around your internal organs, your liver, pancreas, intestines, like insulation you never asked for. And the reason it's so dangerous is simple. It doesn't just sit there. Visceral fat behaves like an active tissue. It releases inflammatory chemicals and hormone-like signals that push the body toward insulin resistance, higher blood pressure, abnormal cholesterol patterns, fatty liver, and the kind of chronic inflammation that quietly accelerates aging. That's why people can look not that overweight, but still have a growing waistline, worsening blood sugar, rising triglycerides, and increasing fatigue. Visceral fat changes metabolism from the inside out. Now, you've probably heard about green tea. It's fine. It has useful compounds. But what I want to do here is walk you through 7 other teas, simple, natural options people use in the evening, specifically because nighttime is when your body shifts into repair mode. You're not eating, you're fasting, and your hormones and nervous system are supposed to be moving toward rest, recovery, and better metabolic regulation. These teas won't melt fat in your sleep, but they can support the processes that make visceral fat easier to lose over time, especially when paired with the basics: smarter food choices, consistent movement, and proper sleep. Like and subscribe for more videos like that, and where you watching from, comment below. Alright, let's get into the 7. First, turmeric tea with black pepper. If you care about visceral fat, you have to care about inflammation, because visceral fat and inflammation feed each other. The more visceral fat you carry, the more inflammatory signaling you get, and the more inflamed your body is, especially as you age, the easier it becomes to store fat around the organs and the harder it becomes to access it. Turmeric's key compound is curcumin, studied heavily for its relationship with inflammatory pathways in the body. The problem is absorption. Curcumin is notoriously difficult for the body to absorb on its own. This is where black pepper matters. Black pepper contains piperine, which can dramatically increase curcumin availability in the bloodstream. That's why people who've skipped the pepper often get a much smaller effect. In a nightly routine, turmeric and pepper isn't about a dramatic overnight change. It's about lowering the inflammatory background noise that keeps metabolism stuck and joints aching, and that keeps insulin signaling from working smoothly. Some people also notice less next morning puffiness or less stiffness, which is consistent with improved inflammatory tone. How to make it? Warm 1 cup of water to a gentle boil, reduce heat, then add about 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder and a small pinch of black pepper. Let it simmer a couple of minutes, then strain if needed and drink warm. Important cautions. Turmeric and curcumin can affect blood clotting. If you take blood thinners or antiplatelet drugs, warfarin, apixaban, rivaroxaban, clopidogrel, or even if you're on a daily aspirin plan, talk to your clinician before making turmeric a nightly habit. Also be cautious if you have gallbladder disease or a history of gallstones, because turmeric can stimulate bile flow and may aggravate symptoms in some people. Second, hibiscus tea. This one is easy to recognize. Deep red, tart, almost cranberry-like. Hibiscus is rich in anthocyanins, antioxidant compounds found in darker berries too, and it's been studied for cardiovascular and metabolic support. When people talk about hibiscus and fat burning, the honest framing is that it may provide a gentle metabolic nudge, but its bigger value is often elsewhere: blood pressure support and fluid balance. Hibiscus has evidence behind modest reductions in blood pressure in some people, and it can act as a mild diuretic. That matters because a lot of people carrying visceral fat also carry hypertension and feel chronically bloated or swollen, especially with high sodium diets. Here's what I want you to understand. Losing water weight is not the same as losing visceral fat. But reducing fluid retention can make you feel lighter, sleep more comfortably, and see your waistline more accurately, because bloating can hide real progress. How to make it. Steep 1 to 2 tablespoons of dried hibiscus in a cup of boiling water for around 8 to 10 minutes, then strain. Because it can increase urination, I'd suggest drinking it earlier in the evening, about 1.5 to 2 hours before bed, so you're not waking up repeatedly at night. Cautions. If you already run low on blood pressure or you're taking blood pressure medication, hibiscus can amplify the drop. Monitor how you feel, lightheadedness, weakness, dizziness, and discuss it with your healthcare provider. It can also interact with certain medications, so if you're on a complex regimen, don't assume herbal means risk-free. Third, sage tea. Most people think of sage as a cooking herb, but as an evening tea, it's used for calming and for supporting the nervous system. And this connects to visceral fat in a way that a lot of people overlook: stress biology. Chronic stress doesn't just affect mood, it affects cortisol rhythms, sleep quality, cravings, and blood sugar regulation. When sleep is fragmented and stress stays high at night, the body is more likely to drift toward insulin resistance and more likely to store fat centrally, right in that deep abdominal area. Sage contains compounds like rosmarinic acid, and it has a long history of use for relaxation and cognitive support. The strongest promise I can make here is not, sage burns visceral fat. The more accurate reporting is this: a calmer nervous system at night can improve sleep depth and reduce the stress-driven behaviors and hormonal patterns that keep visceral fat stubborn. If you can get your evenings quieter, physiologically quieter, you're helping your body shift from alert mode into repair mode. How to make it. Steep about 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon of dried sage in hot water that's not aggressively boiling. Let it sit around 6 to 8 minutes, strain, and drink warm about 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Cautions. Sage contains thujone in varying amounts depending on the species and dose. Don't take it in excessive amounts. Don't treat it like unlimited, and avoid it if you're pregnant or have a seizure disorder unless a professional specifically okays it. Also, if you tend toward low blood pressure, go slowly and see how you respond. Fourth, ginger and lemon. This is a practical one because it hits 2 common issues that make people feel worse at night: sluggish digestion and inflammation. Ginger contains gingerols and shogaols, compounds associated with anti-inflammatory effects and digestive support. Many people don't realize how much digestion affects sleep quality. If you eat dinner and then your stomach sits heavy for hours, you're more likely to sleep poorly, wake up, and feel inflamed the next day. Ginger can support gastric emptying and gut motility for some people, which can reduce that brick in the stomach feeling. The lemon piece is often misunderstood. Lemon juice provides flavor and vitamin C, but it doesn't supply much fiber unless you include some pulp or a bit of zest. If you want more of that soluble fiber effect, include a small strip of lemon peel, washed well, or allow some pulp into the drink. The goal at night isn't to load sugar or calories. It's to keep the drink light while supporting digestion and comfort. How to make it. Slice a small piece of fresh ginger, about 1 to 2 centimeters. Simmer it in a cup of water for 5 to 7 minutes. Remove from heat, then add lemon juice to taste, and optionally a small piece of zest. Drink it warm about an hour before bed. Cautions. If you have significant GERD or a sensitive esophagus, ginger and citrus can aggravate symptoms. Start weak, dilute it, and test tolerance. Also, ginger can interact with blood-thinning medications in some cases, so if you're on anticoagulants, ask before making it routine. Fifth, horsetail tea. This is where I slow down and get more cautious, because horsetail is not a casual, daily, forever tea for everyone. Horsetail is known for its mineral content, including silica, and it has been used traditionally for connective tissue support, hair, nails, skin, and sometimes joint-related issues. But in the context of abdominal bloating and feeling heavy, horsetail is used mainly for its diuretic effect. It can increase urine output and help people shed retained fluid. That can make your abdomen feel flatter, and for some people it reduces that puffy, swollen feeling that often travels with high-sodium diets and poor circulation. But again, that's not the same as directly targeting visceral fat tissue. It's more about supporting elimination and reducing the fluid component that can exaggerate waist size and discomfort. How to make it. Steep about 1 tablespoon of dried horsetail in hot water for 10 to 15 minutes, strain well, and drink it earlier, at least 2 hours before sleep. Cautions are serious here. Horsetail can alter electrolyte balance and can be risky if you have kidney disease, heart rhythm issues, or if you're on prescription diuretics or heart medications like digoxin. Some horsetail preparations also contain thiaminase, which can interfere with vitamin B1 if used excessively over time. This is not the tea I'd choose for nightly long-term use. Think short periods, rotated, and only if it's appropriate for your health profile. Sixth, cinnamon tea. If visceral fat is the problem, blood sugar control is often the lever that moves everything. A large percentage of adults, especially older adults, are dealing with insulin resistance long before they're officially diagnosed with diabetes. And insulin resistance strongly correlates with deeper abdominal fat storage. Cinnamon has compounds such as cinnamaldehyde, and a number of studies link cinnamon intake with modest improvements in fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity in some people. The practical benefit of an evening cinnamon tea is that it can support a steadier overnight metabolic environment, especially if your dinner contained carbohydrates. But there's a key detail most people miss. Choose the right cinnamon. Many store-bought ground cinnamon products are cassia cinnamon, which contains higher levels of coumarin. Coumarin in high, regular doses can stress the liver. If you're doing cinnamon regularly, Ceylon cinnamon is generally the safer choice. How to make it. Simmer 1 Ceylon cinnamon stick in a cup of water for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then let it cool slightly and drink warm around 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Cautions: if you're on diabetes medications, cinnamon could contribute to lower blood sugar, especially combined with other changes. Monitor readings and discuss with your clinician. And if you have liver disease or elevated liver enzymes, don't assume cinnamon supplements or heavy cinnamon use is safe. 7th, dandelion tea. Dandelion is dismissed as a weed until you look at how it's used traditionally for digestion and liver support. And if you're talking about visceral fat, the liver is not optional in the conversation. The liver is central to fat metabolism, blood sugar regulation, and how your body handles stored energy. It also produces bile, which is essential for breaking down dietary fats and for moving certain waste products out of the body. Dandelion, especially the root and leaves, contains bitter compounds that can stimulate digestive secretions and may support bile flow in some people. That's why dandelion often shows up in digestive bitters traditions. It also has a mild diuretic effect, and dandelion provides potassium, which is one reason people consider it gentler than some diuretics. Still, gentler doesn't mean for everyone. How to make it. Steep 1 tablespoon of dried dandelion leaf or root in hot water for about 10 to 15 minutes. Expect bitterness. That bitter taste is part of what people are using it for. Drink it in the evening, but not right before you lie down. Give it at least an hour, and ideally more if you're sensitive to nighttime bathroom trips. Cautions: if you have gallbladder disease, bile duct obstruction, or a history of gallstone attacks, be careful with bitter herbs that stimulate bile flow. If you take lithium, diuretics, or multiple blood pressure medications, discuss dandelion with your clinician. Also avoid if you're allergic to ragweed and related plants, because cross-reactions can happen. Now, let me tie this together, because the most important part is not memorizing 7 T's. The important part is using the right tool for the right reason. If your problem is inflammation and stiffness with a growing waistline, turmeric with pepper might make sense, if your medications allow it. If your issue is blood pressure and puffiness, hibiscus might be a better fit, timed early enough to protect sleep. If stress and poor sleep are driving late-night snacking and morning fatigue, sage might be useful as part of a calming routine. If digestion is slow and heavy at night, ginger and lemon can help you feel settled. If you're retaining water and feel bloated, horsetail or dandelion might reduce fluid, but those require more caution and smarter timing. And if your waistline and your blood sugar are rising together, cinnamon can be a practical nightly choice, especially with Ceylon. But I'm going to be very clear. None of this replaces the fundamentals. Visceral fat responds best to a consistent calorie deficit, higher protein intake to preserve muscle, strength training, daily walking, better sleep, and reducing ultra-processed carbs and added sugars. Also, stop giving your body a huge digestive workload right before bed. If you eat heavy meals late, your body spends the night digesting instead of repairing. Try to finish dinner at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep when possible. Use 1 tea at a time for a week or 2. Pay attention to sleep, digestion, morning energy, bloating, waist measurement, and how your blood pressure or glucose readings respond if you track them. Rotate rather than stacking everything at once. And if you're on prescriptions, especially for blood pressure, diabetes, clotting, kidneys, or heart rhythm, treat these teas like real interventions because they can be. The goal here isn't a gimmick. The goal is to use a simple evening ritual to support the body's overnight repair cycles. So week after week, your metabolism starts moving in a healthier direction, and that dangerous hidden fat starts shrinking, slowly but steadily, in the background.